Howl of death and eyes of red, the Barghest stalks thou all. Feel its breath upon thine head, to Barghest wilt thou fall. Till dusk the morrow will dawn the sorrow. Hi everyone, I wanted to give you a preview of my next project. So the first book that I published was called The Howling Caverns. It was a 5e adventure, and it was basically my version of Ravenloft. So it started off as a campaign that I ran for my friends, playing Pathfinder 1st edition. So I created this Ravenloft-like world as my own spin on Strahd and Ravenloft. So it's essentially Ravenloft with the serial numbers filed off. So I first published that as a PDF and then finally printed it. That was in 2019. It's still on Drive-Thru RPG, it's still on itch. You can still check it out. I've still got print copies of it. I also did a follow-up to it called Colossus Wake, set in the same world. It's a continuation of the world established in the Howling Caverns. If you've been following my work over the last couple of years, you'll see that I've moved on from 5th edition to a system called Cairn. So I've done hacks of Cairn, made videos about those previously. My Norse Fantasy TTRPG Rune Cairn is based on Cairn, and We Deal and Led, my Weird West TTRPG inspired by the Dark Tower, is also based on Cairn. But until this point, I hadn't made a straight Cairn adventure, but I have now. So I've converted the Howling Caverns into Cairn, and I've called it Howl. So that's what I want to show you today. So I've stripped out all the OGL and 5e rules. I've converted monsters over to Cairn. I've redone the cartography, tweaked the art, done a whole new cover for it, and I've given it a fresh coat of paint with a new layout using the classic Explorers template. So I wanted to give you a preview of Howl today. The PDF is pretty much done. I'm just still going through it, doing minor revisions and tweaks before I send it off to print. All right, so let's have a look at it. So here's Howl, a horror adventure of dark folklore for Cairn. This cover is actually photo bashed, so it's a photo that I found on Unsplash. I love the look of it, and I did some heavy photo bashing with it, and I think it looks really good. I love the red on it. This is the original cover from the Howling Caverns. Repurposed it for the inner cover of this. So this is going to be a stapled zine rather than a bound book, because I like that format a bit better. It works for Rune Cairn, and I think it'll work for this. This is using the Classic Explorers template. You can find a link in the description below. It's really useful. It teaches you how to basically build a layout for a TTRPG. There's templates available for InDesign and for Affinity Publisher. So it's really split into two main sections. The Curse, which is like the town, and then the dungeon. So the idea is that the player characters are in a shipwreck, washed up, like crashed on this strange alien shore in this mist-shrouded land, aka my version of Ravenloft, and they get cursed when they arrive, and they have to find out the secret of the curse, what's going on, and there's kind of a mystery around the town and what is actually going on. So here is the first map. So I wanted to go old school with this one, and this is a Tolkien-inspired overland map based on my original one, and Forlorn Shipwreck. So you can see every area has an exit section, so it tells you where the exits are in this particular area, has description of what you see. So I tend to put a lot of information in that evokes sensation, so smell, touch, taste, etc. And I try and go light on the read aloud text. Keep things punchy, to the point, easy to read, easy to parse at the table. All of the art in this book is by me. So that was that's one of the things I was most proud of with the Howling Caverns, is that I did everything. Writing, art, layout, editing, and then the village itself. So this is based on my original village map. So a lot from the Howling Caverns is based on the group of players that I was playing with at the time. So running this for them was my first time GMing for them. And I know that they had a tendency towards murder hoboism. So I built some stuff in to kind of counteract that. Never really worked properly. This character, for instance, this NPC is a disguised undead, basically. So he's a hidden villain. So this story was inspired by folklore from the northeast of England. So in Whitby, that's where Bram Stoker wrote part of Dracula, and that's where Dracula first, in the book, that's where he first comes to England. He crashes into Whitby on the Demeter, and there's a Dracula experience in Whitby. It's a beautiful place, one of my favorite places. Great fish and chips. But there's also a ghost tour that they do in Whitby, and this is where I heard some of these tales, like Old Gravelars, the Barghest. I worked those into the Howling Caverns. There's an amazing abbey at Whitby. It's an old ruined abbey. If you walk up the 199 steps, there's a graveyard around the abbey. There's an actual working church there, and then there's also the ruins of the abbey further on. but around the actual church are graves, and Old Gravelars has a grave there, and I've actually seen it, and it's very cool. Tale of the Barghest, which is the black dog. So that's the main kind of thrust of this story, is that the player characters get cursed by the Barghest, and they have to find out what's going on. Then we've got the tavern, the bard, friendly bard with information. I won't go through this in detail, just kind of give you highlights until we get to the dungeon. The one broken cleric, so always has to be like a woebegone cleric fighting against the darkness. This image was in the original book as well. This is the Saltburn mortuary in Saltburn, which is on the northeast coast of England. So during times of war, they would store dead bodies in the tavern, in the inn at Saltburn, because it's right on the coast, so bodies would wash in from ships. So they would store the dead bodies in the inn, and then in this mortuary. So I thought it was a cool image, a cool visual. So these wereowls, my players had a lot of fun with them, and I kind of played them up. So this is an extension of that. Extremely stupid, easily deceived, easily bribed. A lot of fun to play. As you can see, like, Gerblins not allowed to leave cave. So I had like one of my terrible voices for the wereowls. No, Gerblins not allowed to leave cave. That kind of thing. So they were a lot of fun to play. Then we get into the dungeon itself. This is a redone map in my new current style, based on the original. There are 12 locations, 12 rooms in the map, and then rules for, so in Cairn you can have a quick rest, drink a bit of water, then you'll regain lost HP, or if you need to recover any strength damage or any ability damage that you've taken, you'll have a full rest. So there's, depending on where you rest, where you choose to rest in the dungeon, you'll have different encounters of different levels of severity. So this is the dungeon itself. In the original, the Howling Caverns, I had little mini maps in the corner of on each page, and I wanted to replicate that here in a bit of a more elegant way. So that's why I've done this. Each of these is hyperlinked. You can jump between the different areas, so it'll give you kind of an at a glance where the exits are, if there's a hidden exit, if there's a trap door or a block door. I think this worked really well. Got some more art from the original. Again, repurposed this image. I still really like that. This stone line is, so the premise of the dungeon is that ancient elven wizard lived here a long time ago, was doing some strange experiments with the energy in the area, the stone, creating constructs. So this line was like essentially a guard dog, and it's patrolled in the same route for so long that it's worn down the stone, and it's basically the thunder of its footfalls for hundreds of years has like basically deafened it. So after the wizard left, the cave was taken over by a bunch of goblins, and that's who've been living here. Got some NPC encounters, some faction stuff, some Dwerger have dug their way into the dungeon, and the player characters have a chance to either fight them or to kind of help them out or get helped by them. So I've split the dungeon into two. The first half is kind of where the goblins were, and there were still some traps, but not a lot. But deeper into the dungeon, the deeper you go, the more traps there are and the deadlier it is. And so the goblins didn't go that way because they learned pretty quick. And that's where the Dwergar are. They're in the more dangerous area and they're stuck there. So I won't go into the whole plot line, but basically there's more going on than it appears. There's more to the curse than it looks. Right, so we've got the NPCs, we've got the monsters. These are all monsters that I've converted over or used existing Cairn monsters. So these are all statted up for Cairn. And then some relics that are essentially magic items. So these two pieces are new art that I've done just for Howl that weren't in the Howling Caverns. And then the handouts. So this is basically the clue that's given to the players to tell them they've been cursed, and kind of sets out the idea. Howl of death and eyes of red, the Barghest stalks thou all. Feel its breath upon thine head, to Barghest wilt thou fall. Till dusk the morrow will dawn the sorrow. These are handouts that you can give out to the players. And this is a puzzle key for a puzzle in the dungeon. Then we've got the dungeon map on the inner cover page, and then the back cover. So I've tweaked the first cover that I did, the first print run that I did for Howling Caverns. I'll show you actually. So this is the first cover. I had 12 copies of this printed, so I've tweaked it a bit and put it as the back cover. And then that's it. That's Howl. So it's a quick whistle-stop run through. I am going to do a conversion of Colossus Wake, which is the second book in the series, and that's going to be called Wake. That's going to be further down the line. So if you're new to Cairn and you want to play an adventure that's similar to 5e, because this was originally written for 5e, then check out Howl. It's a really good introductory adventure. It kind of follows a lot of the same beats as Ravenloft. It would fit perfectly into like a Curse of Strahd setting. So if you want to do Ravenloft or do Strahd without 5e, then this is the perfect option. It is Ravenloft with the serial numbers filed off. You can always swap in Strahd for Silva, which is my vampire queen of Boroz. There will be a print run in a month or so keep an eye out for it. And keep an eye out for Wake, which is going to be the next book in this series. And if you've played Curse of Strahd, or if you're familiar with Ravenloft, let me know if this is something that you'd like to run for your players, or this is something you'd like to play in yourself. So if you've liked what you've seen today, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing more of these, showing off more of my work, and you'll be able to see what I'm working on next. Thanks. See you later. So a lot of what went into the Howling Caverns is based on my players. Oh, hello. Hello. Are you saying hello? Are you coming to help me? Yeah. Thank you.